In this video, we will have a look into hooking and constructor. I mean, this is not a big deal, but it's nice to know how we can do this. So when an object is being created, the constructor is being called. And hooking this one is just a little bit different from what we have learned so far, but only just. Therefore, let's find this out right now. Okay, so here we are back at Ubuntu VM, and now let's have a look into the following application. So we get back our smartphone screen. All right. And then we have already played around with this Frida instance application, this one over here. So here we can see we've gotten a boss instance, and if we hit this boss instance several times, it disappears just only on the screen, and our item appears over here. So this means this item has been bound to this boss object, and we can also see this in the application source code. So if we go into apps, Frida inst, and then let's open this with JDX GUI. Okay, and then within com app hacking Frida inst, we've got this boss class over here. And there we have it. This one is the constructor of this boss, and we can see this one requires an item. This item class can be found over here. So double clicking, there we have it. This is now the item. The last time we did play around with this application, we did create a new item, and based on this item, we did create a new boss instance. Let's have a look into the graphic tablet. What's the difference right now between this topic from the last time regarding to this one, hooking the constructor over here? All right, let's have a look. Okay, so here we are back on the graphic tablet, and the last time we did play around with this application, we did the following. So we did create a new boss instance. For example, this one over here. This was our newly generated boss instance. But here we did run into a problem. This boss instance requires an item as a parameter. This one over here. So we also had to create a new item first, which can be then used as a parameter for this instance over here. Therefore, we did also create a new item. For example, this one over here. Okay, so this was the newly generated item instance. And I guess this has a parameter regarding to the power level of this item. So I'm not sure, but I guess we did put this to 9000. Okay, by having this newly generated instance, we could use it within our constructor over here, within our newly generated boss object. All right, and we did this quite often. So we did not only create one boss instance, we did create, I'm not sure, maybe 10 or more. So all over here, there were some boss instances. This one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Okay, so this was the approach regarding to the last time. We did also play a little bit around with constructors over here without really knowing this. But this time we want to make it differently. What we want to do right now is the following. Instead of creating new objects, we want to rewrite the creation of an object. For example, on this boss instance over here. And this is exactly what we can do by hooking the constructor. Let me show what I mean over here. And so within the onCreate method of our activity, we are first generating a new item. And afterwards, we are creating this boss instance over here. And we are using exactly this item we have created over here. Okay. Now we do not want to create a new boss, we want to interfere or modify the creation of this boss over here. And therefore we can hook the constructor of, for example, this boss, or also this new item generation. So this boss over here appears on our screen, and if we hit 10 times this boss, then we get back our skill sap item, this one over here. This means if we are now defeating this boss, Then we want to have an item which has not the power level, for example, 900. It has the power level 9000. Okay, so this is the difference regarding to the last approach and this approach. Within the last approach, we did create new instances, and now we are interfering the creation of a new instance over here, and we manipulate it in a way that we want to have it. Absolutely amazing, right? And it's also not that complex. So we just get introduced to some new keywords. I guess only one or two, but we will find this out right now. So let's see how we can hook in Constructor the creation of a new object with Reader. Let's start right now. Okay, back at Ubuntu VM, let's defeat this boss. And here we have our skill set, but this is not the item we want to have. We want to have a more powerful item. So therefore, let's find out how we can modify this one over here. Okay, so we open up our Visual Studio Code Editor, and now let's have a look. So here we're having this item class, and we can see this item has this item power, which is being assigned to this one. So when we are hooking our constructor, we can observe which item power will be provided to this one over here, to this object, and we can find this in the main activity. So let's open this one. Here we have it. Within our original code, we are creating an item that has 1000 as a power level. Okay, so we can observe and verify if our constructor hooking has been successful. So over here, we should have a parameter within our constructor with the level 1000. And then we are going to override it over here. So this one over here, yes, we're going to override this item power level. Okay, and then we can search through our instances, the existing ones, and we can identify this item. Yes, and this should then afterwards have our newly assigned power level. Alright, this is how we can approve and verify if our hook has been successful. And now let's dive into this hook. So we put this on the right, this one on the left. And now let's see. As always, the first thing we need to do is we need to close this update window, and then we enable JavaScript. Okay, and now we are dealing with a class over here. So we can think of this constructor like a class method. I mean, this might not be correct regarding to the term, but regarding to our Reader hooking, we can think of this in this way. Okay, and this means we need to use java.use to get this class reference, and then we need to access the constructor and define a new implementation for this one. Alrighty, let's do this. So here we are connecting to the JVM. Here we are providing our anonymous function. And here we are having our code. So we need to first get the class reference. So our item class reference is now this package. So we need to use, do you still remember this one? Of course you do, because we had a lot of practice regarding to this one. It's of course java.use. Alright, package name dot class name. Let's make this a little bit wider. Okay, so here we're having now our class reference. And now's the question, how can we access this constructor? If you're having a method in here, we would simply use this method name. But regarding to a constructor, we only have this one over here. And therefore, Reader has also introduced a new keyword. The new keyword is now $init. So with $init, we can now access the constructor, which is this one in line 7. So all we need to do is we need to use this $init and then define a new implementation. We will run into a problem here, but we do not know this right now. So therefore, let's encounter this problem together. And don't worry, we will know how to fix this afterwards. All right? Okay. So here we are having our $init implementation, and now we want to have a new implementation. This is our parameter, our power level, and we can then, and we can print this out first. So I need to reset this. Okay. So let's print this out. Item power of the generated, or let's say created instance is, and then let's put an equal sign and this parameter. Okay, so first let's have a look if this one over here is working. If this one works, then we can extend it and modify these values. But at the beginning, keep it simple. So verify if basic scripts work. If we are encountering some errors over here, we do not have to do a huge investigation because we only have these 3 lines of code. All right? Okay, so now let's see. Let's get back the screen. Here we have it. We can leave it open. I mean, that's absolutely fine. And then we need to connect to our smartphone and we need to start the Frida server. So within data local temp. Okay, this one is running in the background. Amazing animation. And here we're now connecting to this process. So this one is frida-u com app hacking frida inst, if I remember correctly. No, I do not remember correctly. So let's have a look. Oh, frida instance. Yeah, there we have it. All right, so let's see. Yes, if we paste this right now into this one, we can see nothing happens. The reason for this is the method or this constructor has been already called. This object exists, and unless we are not creating a new one, then we also do not see this implementation over here. Therefore, we have already encountered an important point. If we are dealing with constructors, it might be a good idea to already provide your script at the startup. So let's save the script over here. Save as, and then it's not a Spacepang application. This one is frida inst. We are not having in script in here. That's ridiculous, but nevertheless. So this one is the Constructor.js. Okay, so we close this one. And now we are applying the script over here. Apps, frida inst, and then we only have this one. And we need to start this application, and we do not want to have a pause. I make this a little bit larger that you can see this in one line. Here we have it. All right, so now we are starting this application, attending our Frida script. It will resume, and then if the constructor of the item class gets called, we should see this output over here. All right, let's try this. And here we have it. Yes, item power of the created instance is, and so on. Nice. So we have hooked this constructor. And to be honest, I would have assumed to have a problem over here. And so the problem I think we would face right now is the following. Most of the time we are having a default constructor that has no parameters in there. So if you take a look back into our JDX output over here, we can see we are having this constructor with a parameter. And my assumption was that we are also having a constructor without a parameter. This means we are having two constructors, and Frida do not know which one to hook. We have talked about this in the overloading section. So this one is not an identifier for having the constructor with a parameter. So if you haven't watched this part, then please have a look into this one, because that's a very important section over there. All right, but now we can see we are only having one constructor with a parameter, and therefore we also do not need to overload this init function over here. We can also maybe figure this out by clicking on the Smiley button. Here we're having the Smiley code right now. And after all our Smiley chapter, this is no big deal anymore to read, which is absolutely amazing, right? So here we can see, maybe let's enlarge this. Okay, so we haven't looked at Smiley quite a while, so let's see. Okay, and this one is the class. We can see we are not extending a special class over here. We've got an instance field, item power. We've got an instance field name from the type string. And then we've got this one, method constructor. Here we're having this init. And here we can see one parameter type integer returning void. So we're only having one constructor in there. Therefore, we might not need to overload it. In case, if we need to overload it, we will have a look on the slides how we can do this. But it's exactly the same like we have done this in the past couple of videos. All right? Okay. Before we go back to the slides and figure out how we can overload this constructor, let's modify this. So let's put this back on the right. Okay, and let's see. We want to have an item power level which is higher than 1000. For example, 9000. If you want to do this on your own right now, then yeah, you can pause and rewind this video later on. I will now move on with the solution on how to modify this value in our constructor. Therefore, I give you 5 to 10 seconds to make your decision if you want to do this on your own or not. Okay, welcome back. Now let's have a look into this one. So here we are overriding the implementation of the constructor. Let's have a look into this one. This is our constructor. Okay. Here we can see we are taking this parameter and we assign this parameter to this instance field. This means if we want to hook the constructor, we can simply modify this parameter over here. So we have already done this approach. We are taking the original method, overriding the parameter, and then we are calling this method once again with our modified version. Alrighty, let's do this. So here we keep our debug output from the original output, and then we need to call the original constructor. And this can be done in the following way. This dot init, and then we need to provide our new value. Let's do it this way. Alright, I guess this should do the job. Let's find this out. This is our app, this is our script. This time I also save it. Okay, so let's do this. The application has been restarted and we can see the item power creation, instance, and so on. This is our first parameter. Now let's try to identify this object in our memory over here, and let's see what's this instance field value. This one. This item power of the instance. Alright? Okay, so let's write the script real quick. We write this directly underneath. So now we are using Java perform, a function, and this time we are using java.choose. We need to find all item instances, so that's the item, or that's the class reference. And then we're having our two callbacks. Double click, curly brackets, enter, on match. Here we're having now our function with this instance. Instance has been found. And then let's also access this instance field. And let's write it in this way. This one is item power. So we are accessing this instance and then this item power dot value. All right. Then we are providing our onComplete callback. Then we know we have done finished scanning. I guess that's how it's being called. So finished scanning. All right, and now let's do this. So we take this one into our command line over here. And then I'm hitting this in 3, 2, 1, let's see. All right, nice. We can see we have found one instance, this one over here. This means we have not created a new instance. And we can also see the power level of this instance has been set to this value. So now we know we have hooked this constructor over here, this one, and we have modified this value within the constructor generation. Alrighty? Amazing, right? Okay, let's have a quick recap on the slides, and there we will also find out how we could overload an constructor. So in case if we are having multiple ones, let's see how we can overload and hook an constructor. Alrighty, let's have a look. Okay, so here we are back on the slides. On the top, we've got our item class. On the left, we've got this amazing picture. And on the bottom, we've got the hook regarding to the constructor. This time we are only having one constructor, therefore no overload, simply just using the $.init, and then we can define a new implementation for this one. Perfect. If we are having multiple constructors, like in this case, then we have to simply overload it like we have seen this in the last couple of videos. So over here we're having now two constructors. This one does not have a parameter, and this one over here has an integer parameter. If we now want to hook the one with the integer parameter, we need to get our class reference, we need to apply this $.init for the constructor, and then we need to overload it regarding to the amount of numbers and types of these parameters. In this case, we are only having one parameter from type integer. Therefore, Frida knows exactly that we want to hook this one over here. Then we can access and manipulate it, business as usual. So we can see over here, we're having then this parameter, and we can print it out or modify it in the way we like. Alright? Okay, in the next video we will have a look at manipulating the UI thread. This is the last piece which is missing right now, and afterwards I guess we can manipulate over 95% of our Java code in our Android application. Alrighty? Okay, so I'm looking forward to see you there.